Blessings, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Today, I wanted to discuss Old Holy Virgin Cathedral in San Francisco that is located on Fulton Street. And this should not be confused with the Holy Virgin Cathedral that is located on Geary Street. The Geary Street Cathedral is where the incorrupt relics of St. John Maximovitch reside. And I want to start by sharing some photographs. This is Old Holy Virgin Cathedral on Fulton Street, and it doesn't look like an Orthodox church from the exterior. That's because it was originally designed and built as an Episcopal church, finished in 1881 as St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. The building was designed and constructed by the architectural firm of Wright and Sanders. It was quite a prolific company in the Victorian era in the San Francisco Bay Area. They built many famous buildings, but most of those did not survive. At least the ones in San Francisco did not survive the 1906 earthquake and fire, which destroyed much of the city. The building was purchased in 1931 by the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. And this is a video that I took of the interior of the church. The iconostasis, I believe, truly complements the neo-Gothic design of the vaulted ceilings in this church. While the floor was made of oak, the ceiling is redwood, which is plentiful in California. I found a quote from a historian of San Francisco architecture, and he remarked that the ceiling in the church is evocative of a sailing ship's wooden hull. The style of the icons, I believe, are reminiscent of the work created by the great Russian painter Victor Vasnetsov, who was part of the Russian revivalist movement, which thrived in Russia before the revolution. These icons have a more naturalistic aspect to them versus the classical Byzantine style or the Novgorod school. This here is an icon of St. John Maximovitch, and here you notice he is holding the New Holy Virgin Cathedral from Geary Street. And this is just an example of Victor Vasnetsov's work. The history of Holy Virgin Cathedral intersects with that of Father Seraphim Rose. In 1957, then Eugene Rose attended his first Orthodox liturgy there during the Paschal Vigil. In my opinion, the Paschal Vigil is really the most glorious of all Orthodox liturgies. And coincidentally, I began to attend Orthodox church during Lent, which is the spiritually is the most intense time of the year. I found a couple of beautiful paintings that I thought really illustrate the majesty of the Paschal liturgies, and I wanted to read a short paragraph from Father Damascene's great biography about Father Seraphim Rose. Here he wrote concerning Eugene Rose's attendance at the liturgy at the old cathedral. And he wrote, in the cathedral, the intensity of all that was happening around him touched the soul of Eugene. This seemingly incidental visitor, he witnessed the beauty of the traditional art and music, but even more, he sensed the fulfillment of his longing to leave this world, since what he beheld was otherworldly. I also wanted to read a short passage from a really great remembrance that was written by Father Seraphim Rose's godfather, Dmitri Andralt de Langeron. Sorry for my pronunciation. And this is available online as an unpublished life of Father Seraphim Rose, written by his godfather. And I really liked this in particular. Eugene came to the night service at the Russian Orthodox Cathedral in San Francisco. It was Easter. Russian Easter is so notoriously exuberant and full of joy. Here he experienced something of the original spirit of Christianity from the time of the apostles. He was overwhelmed by the beauty of the service, by all he saw and heard. He said, "Now I am at home." He realized that he had found what he had been seeking all along. He experienced something neither intellectual nor aesthetic, but existential. This is a photograph of Eugene Rose with his godfather, Dmitri Langerin, and his mother, Svetlana, who was Father Seraphim's godmother. And Father Seraphim was received into the Orthodox Church on February 12th or the 25th on the old calendar in 1962 at the old cathedral. In 1961, construction of the new cathedral on Geary Street began, and in 1962, St. John Maximovitch was reassigned from Western Europe to become the Bishop of San Francisco. And in 1962, there at the old cathedral, Eugene first met St. John Maximovitch. The time that St. John spent as Bishop of San Francisco was often marked by suffering and turbulence, but the cathedral was completed in 1965, yet St. John Maximovitch reposed in 1966. And this is a photograph of St. John's memorial liturgy from the new cathedral on Geary Street. And I believe here that this is Eugene Rose. One of the reasons I visited the old cathedral was to see the Mantiya of St. John. And this is a Mantiya here. Again, sorry for my mispronunciation. A Mantiya is worn by monastics, including bishops, in processions and while attending certain church services such as Vespers and Matins. After the church, after the Sunday liturgy, Bishop James brought the Mantiya of St. John Maximovitch out into the church. When Bishop James was a young man, he attended UC Santa Cruz, and he also belonged to the Orthodox Christian Fellowship there. In 1981, the fellowship invited now Father Seraphim Rose to give 2 lectures at the school. Later, the visit became famous because those lectures resulted in so many conversions among the students. This is part of the living history of the old cathedral. Following the Sunday liturgy, Bishop James began the Malaban. A Malaban is a prayer service in honor of our Lord, the Theotokos, or a particular saint. During the Malaban, Bishop James placed the Mantiya over those who were in attendance, usually in a group. When I was underneath the Mantiya, the priest prayed this from St. John Maximovich's Malaban. When I heard those prayers as I was under the Mantiya of St. John Maximovitch, I thought there truly are no accidents in life, because I felt like those prayers were meant for me. Available online is the Vita Prima of St. John the Wonder Worker, written by Father Seraphim Rose, and it's a wonderful resource to learn more about St. John Maximovitch. In it, he describes miracles and healings that occurred during St. John's life. So, how more efficacious are the saints in heaven? In this book, Man of God, further miracles that occurred during and after St. John's life are described. I'd like to finish by reading a quote from St. John Kronstadt, the great Russian saint for which St. John had a special devotion. And St. John of Kronstadt said, "All the saints in heaven and all true Christians upon earth are one body and one spirit. This is why the prayer of believers is heard so easily and speedily and truly in heaven, and why there is so much hopefulness in calling upon the saints. But in order that our prayers should be always easily and speedily heard by the saints, we must have the same spirit as them, the same spirit of faith and of love for God and our neighbor, the spirit of meekness, humility, abstinence, purity, chastity, brave, valiant, thirsting after righteousness, the spirit of compassion, heavenly and not earthly."